this is an example of another group that was able to coalesce their project underneath a single, or in service of a single functionality. But the point again is that it really took an iterative process with me involved. They initially came up with this idea of modeling a 3D printer, and as their enclosure. And so they just had this printer basically modeled, and they had sensors sitting like on the print bed, or just around. And so we started a dialogue where we were able to kind of develop this idea and say, well, why would the sensors be there? Is there some function for it? And create the idea that maybe we could actually have a sensor network that was integrated with the printer for meaningful reasons, and so that's what they ended up doing. So this is their enclosure, and here's the actual sensor network in the form of a drawer that has. So this is the photocell here, all the components inside, and the DHT here, and the idea is that then, and they did some research and determined what the ideal conditions are for printing. So that this sensor network could monitor the environment and say, okay, you should be printing, you shouldn't be printing. The idea with the light, with the photocell, was that the printer could say that it could be set so that you could not print at night when the lights were out. And this is something that I actually brought up because I know that in D2, the D2 lab, that might be a good function for us, because sometimes prints are left running and we get this big mess of filament the next day we come into the lab. And then they were able to take it a step further and develop a V1, very basic VI, but in service to this app concept. So the idea is you run that the sensor network is keeping track of the ideal humidity and temperature conditions and giving some kind of feedback, maybe even turning the printer on and off if you go below or above the ranges. And then again, with the light on and off, the idea could be that there would be a functionality for not allowing the printer to print when the lights were off. So again, if we just started earlier, we could have thought about a VI that would have actually had some kind of effect on the sensor network itself, or the sensor network had an effect on the printer itself, and considered how to create that functionality. But they also they went a step further and didn't just use the GUI. They did some some basic but nice graphs in Excel, showing the ranges and the ideal ranges, and where the data that they had run through, or that they had, the environment that they had monitored, how often it was outside of those ranges. Anyway, so I think this was a successful project, but we could have gone further if we would have been discussing the experiment from the beginning.